Welcome to Care Sandwich, the podcast where we dive into the success journeys of law firm owners across the country. I'm Margarita Eberline, your host and the founder of Marketing Boss, a fractional chief marketing officer firm for law firms. On this show, we'll explore the challenges, strategies, and victories that have shaped law firms and how they wrap every interaction with care. Because we believe that caring isn't just a value, it's a strategy for success. So grab your favorite sandwich, sit back, and let's dig into a conversation filled with insight, inspiration, and of course, a lot of care. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Care Sandwich. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing you to Matthew, and he is an attorney who is also a professor. He's going to share his journey with us, and we're going to talk about his story and what he does and how he does it and about the legal field in general, and get some really interesting perspectives from him as somebody that has such a diverse portfolio of experience in the legal space with the teaching and also practicing. So tell us about yourself. How did you end up here? Not on the Care Sandwich podcast, but in the legal profession. What's your story?
What's my story? Well, thanks for having me, Margarita. I appreciate it. My story, I guess, is that I didn't know what I wanted to be. I knew I didn't want to be a lawyer, apparently.
That's a first. That is a first.
My father was a lawyer. I didn't have any interest whatsoever.
Interesting.
What I really cared about and what I care about is creativity. Innovation. And I struggled because I thought that was only in the arts, which, I'm a musician and a songwriter and love that type of creativity.
Yeah.
I fortunately get to work with that type of creativity. But I had also studied medicine, sort of thinking I was going to follow my mother's footsteps. And I learned about creativity in the scientific professions.
You're like a Renaissance lawyer. I'm going to call you Renaissance lawyer.
I'm aiming for that. I'm aiming for it. Yeah. So, and I also discovered creativity in business.
Yeah.
And so, innovation in all of its kind of ilks was ultimately what attracted me. And I found out when I was representing singer-songwriters for the early part of my career before I was a lawyer. That most of the people who were helping those type of artists who got their music into film and television were lawyers. So I had to go to law school after all, thinking I was going to be a music lawyer. And then I applied my science knowledge from medical school and scientific education and my entrepreneurship knowledge from having launched my own record label, and found out, hey, I should be an intellectual property attorney. And so this is why I am here where I am today.
That's awesome. It's funny how that happens. Like, I can relate a lot to your journey because, like, when I think about how did I end up being a law firm CMO, like, what is that? Like, that's not in any application anywhere. Like, what? And it's very similar to what you described, where it's like my passions, my interests just took me to all these weird places. And then here I am. So that's pretty amazing. So talk to us about how you help educate the lawyers of the future. You are also a professor. Talk to us about that journey and what do you do there, and what are some of the things that you're observing that we should know that maybe can change the way we practice law?
Well, there's a lot to say there. I might want to break that up into little bits because I don't know if I can keep track of it all in my head.
I just sent someone else that question. What do you mean you can't handle all this? Just kidding.
The stress.
Yes.
So I'm an adjunct professor at 2 different law schools, and a lot of what I bring to those classes is a practical approach and a global approach to legal practice, because the laws in this country, and in our particular states, right? We have laws in our states and we have laws that are federal. Mm-hmm. They apply, but more often than not, what our clients are actually doing is not so limited. And it has, it reaches out into other countries and other laws that
Right.
we often take a very narrow view. We Americans often impose our idea of what the law is on the rest of the world, thinking that this is maybe how it is going to be everywhere
I
else.
forget.
And
You
I
know
see a
what?
lot
You're
of clients
right.
who make mistakes doing that.
I forget there are other countries with different rules all the time.
Yes, it's true. They speak different languages and everything.
Yeah.
Um, so, so a lot of what I teach is sort of having a broader perspective on yes, there is this law that you are applying that makes sense locally, but recognizing that the business that you're representing may have needs that go beyond that, and that you should not think so narrowly. You need to sort of look at the scope of all the laws that might apply, and what might be relevant. And then I think also really taking a very practical approach. Most law schools are so focused on the academics, the basic law, which is important and is what they go to law school to learn, but it feels alienating from what actual practice is when you get out, because these lawyers, right? They're not going to follow to the letter what the cases say. What they need to do is understand situations, what laws apply to them, and how they might change those laws in the future, especially in a country like ours where you can change the law.
And I was thinking too about with what you're doing, what part of, or how would you describe the future of intellectual property law, considering that there are so many people that are now in the creative space? Like, if you really think about it, now more than ever, you have content creators, designers, and all sorts of people putting out creative content. And I feel like, at least for me personally, it's really led me to consider how little I know about what intellectual property even is. In the marketing space, I've had people ask me questions that really are legal questions because they see me as, a marketing expert, and I do know a lot about marketing, but oh, I came up with this social media post and now so and so has, did they violated my intellectual property. I'm like, first of all, I'm not an IP lawyer, but I don't know. Like, let's talk about it. So I'm curious with what you're seeing, especially in your role as an educator, like, how is that being addressed?
So, I mean, the first thing I have to say, and I'm sure, you knew what's coming and whatever, is artificial
It depends.
intelligence,
Oh,
right?
I thought you were going to say it
Which,
depends.
well,
That's
yeah, okay, I'll
true.
say that too.
But
But,
yes, artificial intelligence. Yes, thank you for bringing that up because that's, yeah,
oh,
it
well,
takes
that's
from what's
changed
there.
everything. It's a game changer, right? It means that there's so much more content out there than used to be. But much of that content is not protectable under U.S. law, but maybe protectable in other laws. So there's this element of, you know, large expansion of what we call the public domain, of stuff that will not be protectable, at least under US law, that is out in the marketplace now.
Right.
Meanwhile, you have kind of, as people become more and more aware that there are intellectual property laws, or that or people have greater access to content that
Hmm.
that they didn't know they could get access to in the past, you're having more and more infringements, more and more unintentional, copying of things, and people sometimes thinking they have a dispute that they could support when they don't, and that don't have and that don't have a dispute when they think they do. You know that you have kind of both ways.
I come
So
across that
it's
a lot.
it's a morass, yeah. I mean, look, I guess it's job security for us. We're not going to be replaced by AI anytime soon. Um, but but yeah, I think people run into a lot more problems because they just don't quite understand the scope uh, of what they're doing that could be offending laws, or of what other people are doing that they might be able to stop.
So let me ask you two questions that I've gotten. about just for the sake of having some examples. If I have a brand, say, I don't know, Acme Law, and somebody else says that they work for Acme Law, but they don't. Or somebody else runs an ad with, and this happened to one of my clients, with Acme Law's logo without Acme Law's permission. How can you protect, like, what can you do? Like, how can you protect that? Or what sort of legal action could you take?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things actually potentially there. I guess the one qualification I'd want to make on your question is when this person does adopt your logo, are they adopting it in relation to the same or similar types of services? Are they also offering legal services as an example, or are they selling clothing, or something else?
Oh
Presumably
yeah,
they're
so I'll give you the actual scenario that happened with as much detail without disclosing who it is, because I like to protect my client's privacy. But at Marketing Boss, we audit digital spaces, and sometimes we find things. And one of our auditors found a unknown account, meaning it wasn't part of our client's advertiser family, running ads with his actual law firm logo, even his picture, and without our permission. And then we reached out to all of the digital advertisers, like, hey, by any chance, is this yours? Like, and you just didn't tell us about it? Because that happens. Sometimes people create accounts to run ads. And they were like, no. And we're like, so this is literally like a random, and the one of the advertisers was like, oh yeah, like this happens. And I'm like, what? Like, this is happening to other people? So that's the situation where I don't know for sure if they were just drawing traffic to this fictitious ad for, I don't know, to sell shoes, but I highly doubt it. Like, my logical mind says more than likely it was a marketing company. This is me and my paranoid brain, because this business is just sketchy. My hunch is it was probably a marketing company that was going to grab those leads and sell them to a law firm, another law firm in the market, because I've seen that in that same market where people run ads. They're not even law offices, and they're trying to grab these leads so that they could just sell them. And these are lead gen companies. This is what they do. They're like gypsies. They like run the ads, get a bunch of leads, and then shut it down and then move it. So that's the actual scenario. Like, I don't know if you knew that this was happening, but now you know.
Hey there, I hope you're enjoying the conversation and your sandwich as much as we are. I want to take a moment to share a few words about our sponsor, Marketing Boss. If you're a law firm owner looking to supercharge your growth, our team at Marketing Boss is here to help. We've got over a decade of experience and a proven track record, and we specialize in growing law firms like yours with data-driven marketing leadership. So if you own a law firm and you're ready to get a predictable, steady flow of cases from your marketing, let's connect at marketing-boss.com.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't happened to me, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there still are a number of things that could be done to address that sort of problem. I think the first problem you raise is, and what you did your own due diligence on, right, is that let's make sure it's not something legitimate, that it's not within our company, et cetera. And I can tell you time and time again, I've been asked by clients to chase something down and stop it from happening, and only to find out that, oh, actually we found someone in our company.
It was one of their vendors.
Yeah, like it does happen a lot. But let's assume that it's not that. So things that we might consider. So one is a trademark enforcement, right? So we can look at the brand and its use in relation to a similar service or a similar product. So if they're using Acme Law for a legal service or something, advertising legal services, then conceivably then we could sue for infringement. We could get a temporary restraining order potentially to discontinue it. But sometimes, usually there's steps you can take before that, right?
But remember what I said, they're gypsies. Like, they literally will like shut it down, and like, what can you do? Nothing?
Yeah, I mean, so you'll often hear attorneys say whack-a-mole, right? That's like
Yes.
attorneys who've been in this practice. They always like to talk about the whack-a-mole game, where you like have to bang the bowls and they
Mm,
pop up because they pop up and disappear, and then they pop up again.
right.
But I think that there are avenues that are faster, right? Sometimes the platform on which they're using it has a terms and conditions. Usually it does that will honor a
Um,
copyright or a trademark violation and take something down promptly within days because of Digital Millennium Copyright Act for copyrights as an example, and by extension trademarks. Um, so you can sometimes take things down that way. Sometimes it's a matter of a communication directly with the proprietor or the site that's hosting them. Sometimes it's even a domain, right, and related to a domain registrar or something like that.
mhm.
If it's copyright, right? If so, there's a logo. So if the logo's got some graphic or something, it's not just basic font or it's in a square. It's a little bit more than that. Then
Okay.
conceivably there's a copyright in the logo, and that may be more powerful because you don't have to have legal services associated with it. It could just be used for anything, and you could get it discontinued.
Mm,
Plus, you have the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which would enable and force an internet service provider to take it down promptly or be potentially liable for secondary infringement. So there's all sorts of ways to do that. Often these sites will often also have policies against impersonation. So it's not just about a brand, a trademark, or a copyright, an intellectual property asset that we could look to, but we could say, hey, you're using my name, image, likeness. You're impersonating my firm, and so there may be a way as a violation of their own policies to get that taken down.
yeah, I actually do appreciate, even though sometimes it's a pain as a marketer, Google, specifically for like LSA ads and now some Google ad accounts, they do require in the legal space for you to even put your bar, your license, like that information. They have you upload a photo ID for LSA ads, for example, to make sure you're an actual like person and the picture matches. So I do, again, as a marketer, it can be kind of annoying because when you're dealing with an attorney that doesn't want to be bothered to like give you a login or a password for anything, let alone like all that confidential information so that you can run their ads. It's kind of a pain, but I like it because it keeps us all safe. So that's a really good point that you bring up. Another question that I've gotten is when it comes to a law firm brand or just really any brand, if I say I work there and I don't, like, what rights do you have there? Like, if somebody's associating their person with your brand, like if I say that I work at your law firm and I don't, I'm just a CMO, right? What can happen? Like, what can you do? What are some of the ways that you can protect yourself?
Yeah, well, I don't know how you protect yourself. There's action you can take, right? I mean, I've dealt with this before. In fact, I've dealt with this in the context of someone's LinkedIn profile where they did work for the firm, but they no longer worked for the firm. They hadn't
Oh yeah, that
updated,
happens. Hmm.
and having as a part of the employment policy and as a part of the debriefing upon exit planning when someone's leaving, right? The requirement that they must promptly address that on their social media. They cannot leave. Or you'll allow them however many months or whatever it is to leave it, but they have to address it.
What what about in the reverse scenario where, because I've seen this as well, where maybe I used to work at a law firm and my picture is on their website. I leave, I start my own law firm. How can I make them take down my picture or remove my picture? Can I?
Yeah, not in every circumstance. It kind of depends. Sorry, but one thing is, hey, I would wonder who took the picture, right? Is there a copyright to the picture? There's an element of that,
Mm,
right? So for instance, like most of my photos, I own the copyright to. The photographer transferred those copyrights to me, as opposed
of
to,
course you do. The rest of
well,
us are like, yes, we
you'd be
don't know any
surprised
better,
because
right?
actually usually the law firm will arrange for the photos to be taken,
Yeah.
and then you're subject to whatever agreement the law firm had with the photographer, which is not
Yeah.
necessarily that they got a transfer of ownership. So you
Yep.
do you
I've
do
seen that.
encounter that.
Hmm. Oh
So,
yeah.
but so there's copyright. Then there's also the right of publicity, right? So the name, image, likeness right. And I think this is where you could address it, right? In the context of you are using my name, my photo, my image commercially on your website. And while it was authorized while I was there, it's no longer authorized. Right?
Okay.
And so therefore you must discontinue because you are, using my name, image, likeness in violation, right? Of my rights.
This is fascinating. I did not know that. I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
I would love for you to share more information about where you work, because I bet there are some people that are listening to this and they're like, I need an attorney to help me with something. So how can people get a hold of you or your firm to learn more about your services or
So
refer
the
you clients?
Sure. I always appreciate that. So the easiest way to information about me and contact information for me is my personal website. I have my own website at matthewasbell.com. So it's MatthewAsbell.com. And that actually has links to take you to my law firm website or whatever, and elsewhere, my social media, to connect with me on WhatsApp or whatever else you want to do. So I'm an intellectual property attorney, but I'm at a firm called Lippis Mathias. It's a general practice law firm with about 215 attorneys, and we have offices all over the U.S. And my firm, right, anything having to do with a business. So there's employment and corporate, there's immigration, there's all different kinds of things.
Yeah.
But we've a very robust intellectual property department. About 30 of us are IP attorneys. And the law firm website is lippis.com, Lippes.com.
Love it. I have one last question, and then I'm going to let you get back to your busy life. It is a very important question because this is, after all, called the Care Sandwich Podcast. What is your favorite sandwich?
My favorite sandwich? Wow. I've stopped eating sandwiches altogether. I haven't had a sandwich for actually, I occasionally have a hamburger, but don't tell anybody. It's been like 3 or 4 years, part of my nutrition diet. But I do really love a prosciutto and provolone sandwich with roasted peppers.
Oh, that does sound delicious. So are you gluten-free? Is that what's going on? So you do
No,
wrap?
I'm just, my kids have some food allergies, so for that reason, we got rid of a lot of certain ingredients in our house. But actually, I just, for nutrition purposes, I eat a lot more salads and vegetables. I've been very good.
No wonder.
I'm actually lighter than I was when I was 18 years old.
No wonder you have such great skin. That's amazing.
Or I was in Florida recently. It could be that.
You were where?
In Florida.
Oh, yeah. You've been sun-kissed. I see. Yeah.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Good for you. Well, I have loved this conversation. I could talk to you forever. I love intellectual property law. As I mentioned, I do get a lot of questions that I wish I could answer. And it's definitely one of my favorite areas of the law. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience, keeping in mind that our audience is mostly attorneys, about anything that's on your mind?
Well, I think people need to feel that they have a way to get some more information when these issues come up. So if you get inquiries or the other lawyers listening here get inquiries and don't feel they know how to answer, it's not necessary that we have to charge in order to have a discussion. So you should have your friendly neighborhood intellectual property attorney. It could be me or someone else, but someone you can go to really think out the issues at least preliminarily,
Right.
rather than making guesses on your own, because it is definitely much more complicated than people might think.
That's true. And I take it you speak Spanish as well, or?
I speak Portuguese. My Spanish is okay.
Okay.
My Spanish is, bad Portuguese.
That's important to point out because there are people that are, needing access to this information in different languages. So I love that. That's great. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for checking out this episode. We hope to see you on the next episode of Care Sandwich. Stay tuned.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Care Sandwich. Remember, the way we care for our clients, our teams, and ourselves can make all the difference in our success. Until next time, keep caring, keep growing, and I'll see you on the next episode of Care Sandwich.